Hello, and welcome back to Omaha Mom Talks, the podcast where we keep it real on all things motherhood, mental health, and this beautiful journey of parenthood. I'm your host, Jessie Gutierrez, licensed therapist, mom of two, and just a human trying to survive the chaos of this beautiful, messy life. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about something that impacts all human beings, not just mamas, and that is your nervous system. I know as a mom, you are juggling it all. The grocery lists, the pickups, the drop-offs, homework help, securing childcare. The list never ends. Whether you are a mom that is working or working at home and not getting paid, because all moms are working, your tasks are never ending. It can feel like you're in a constant state of go, go, go. So sometimes it's important to learn how to slow down, pause, and take care of you. If you've ever felt anxious, overwhelmed, or one meltdown away from losing your cool, this episode is for you. We're diving into how your nervous system affects the way that you're feeling, why it's craving safety and connection, and tips on how you can manage stress so that you can show up as a better parent and feel better in your skin. I'm thrilled to have special guest Stefanie Armstrong. In addition to being a standout therapist, she is also my mentor and someone that I deeply admire. Stefanie is a licensed mental health therapist and co-owner of the group practice, The Cord, where science meets connection, which has locations in Omaha and Council Bluffs, Iowa. She has over a decade of experiences treating children and families and adults on issues related to trauma, anxiety, mood disorders, and connection between parents and kids. She's trained in modalities such as EMDR, somatic experiencing, and a ton of other trauma-informed approaches. Translation, she knows her stuff. But what I love most about Stefanie is her ability to take the sciencey stuff and make it simple, relatable, and meaningful. Today, Stefanie's here to share her wisdom with us on the nervous system and how this is important for moms who feel like they're always on the go. So let's get into it. Okay, so today, Stefanie, you are here to chat with us about all of your wisdom about nervous system regulation and helping moms who are always feeling that go, go, go urgency or maybe trouble relaxing. So welcome to Omaha Mom Talks.
Thanks. Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Jessie.
Yes.
I'm so honored. This is going to be great.
I'm so excited, yes.
Yeah.
So Stefanie, before we dive into our chat about nervous system regulation, please just share with our listeners a little bit about you, your work that you do, your family life, and any important parts about you.
Well, since this is a mom podcast, right, I have to say, first and foremost, I love a clean toilet.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
I have 3 boys, 19, 18, and 14.
Gosh.
And they are wild. So all you moms out there,
yeah,
have those boys. That's like my first and foremost.
Do you teach them how to clean the toilet? When does that happen? Good.
They know how to
future
keep.
partners.
And like your future partner is going to want a clean toilet. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay.
And so I've been a mental health therapist for a very long time. I started out as an English teacher, actually, in the middle school, and loved kids, but then became a school counselor, and now I'm a mental health therapist. Been married to my husband for 25 years.
Amazing.
We love to camp. I have a camper.
Okay.
I am not going to camp out in the middle of
in
nowhere.
a tent.
In a tent.
I hear that.
I want my warm coffee.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, let's get into our chat about nervous system regulation.
Yes.
One of the things that I hear from a lot of the moms that I support is feeling burnt out, but also having this constant need to keep going, right? Because the to-do list doesn't stop just because I'm tired. And so maybe they're snapping at their kids when they're irritated or feeling like, okay, I have a minute to relax, but I don't even know how to relax because this list is going and I just have this momentum.
Yes.
And I'm kind of doing this with my hands because this is lived experience and that's activation that my body has felt. So let's just kind of chat a little bit more about the nervous system, why it's important, some tips how we can regulate and break all of that down.
So I like to keep it really simple when it comes to talking about the nervous system because our nervous system actually runs everything about us. And it can get to the point where it's super complicated. And when we try to complicate it, then we become overwhelmed. And as mamas, we're already overwhelmed.
Right.
So then we're
simple.
really stuck in this state, right? And we need simple. And so when I talk with people about the nervous system, I like to say it's like your detection system. And it's consistently looking for safety or danger.
Yes.
And yes, we're not out in the wild anymore, but we are as moms. I mean, when you start having children,
You become a fierce protector.
you are constantly like, what's that? What's going on?
Yes.
And so our nervous system is constantly amped up as mamas because that's part of how we were
Our
created,
biological,
right?
yeah.
To look at that. And so when I talk with people about their nervous system, I like them to understand that it is their whole body. It is their system. And we can't be ashamed of having this activation because it's for real and it's for a purpose.
Yes.
It's for a purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I also like to share with moms about just that scanning that you talked about.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't realize that your body is doing that all of the time. Like right now, the fact that I'm able to sit here with you and be comfortable and social is because I feel safe. Like my body is not detecting any dangers, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so what's the super sciencey word for that? Neuroception?
Neuroception.
Yes.
Yes.
And then when we talk about our nervous system, I feel like sometimes, I don't know how complex you like to get with folks about like the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system. I use the term nervous system generally because that's what people are hearing, and it's, what do you like to?
I actually, Jessie, say system.
Okay.
Because our nervous system, our system, it runs everything. It runs our digestion, our heart rate, our breathing, our thoughts, the way we feel on the inside. And when we can keep it simple and help people understand that, like you talked about the scanning piece, when I share with people, you're constantly scanning for safety or danger, they're like, what do you mean? I'm not in danger when I'm at the grocery store.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
And I say, well, actually, you might feel like you are, and you might not even notice that. And so let's take a minute and scan the room. Safety or danger. And when we can educate ourselves on that, we then become so much more in tune with our bodies. And as moms, I know this from being a mom of 3 boys, there are times when I'm not even in tune with what's going on inside of myself.
Sure.
And I am admittedly a yeller. I was a yeller. I'm doing better now that they're older.
Yeah.
So it's easier to not yell at them. But that was my autonomic nervous system being in this state of mobilization.
Yeah.
Almost constantly. And so I want to help moms and really communicate with people. We can befriend our nervous system and get out of this state of activation. Not all the time, but be more apt to learn how to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So with the nervous system, I think a lot of people are also hearing about polyvagal theory, which is this theory that was originally by Stephen Porges.
Yes.
And if you read his work, he's super smart, and it's like very hard to read. And I mean, let's just break down kind of in simple terms, what is polyvagal theory and maybe why that might be helpful.
So one of the things I like to talk about, so Deb Dana is one of my most favorite people.
She's lovely.
Because she took what Porges did and then made it understandable for, people like me.
Yeah.
I'm not a college professor, and I don't want to be.
And I'm not a medical doctor.
No.
Yeah.
I want to talk with my clients like I'm talking with you. And so when we can understand the basics of this, right? So I like to speak about Deb Dana in her ladder analogy, right? And so she talks about there is this autonomic ladder that we're on. And when we're at the base of the ladder, we're in a connected state. That's our ventral vagal, right? And I like to think about it that we're grounded. You're on the ground, you're not on the ladder, you're feeling safe. But as you move up this ladder, you become in more of a sympathetic state, right? Those are the sciencey words. I call it mobilization.
Yes.
It's that fight, the flight.
The urgency. I got to do something.
Yes, that activation.
Yes.
And which isn't a bad thing. And that is really the other thing that's important to communicate is these different states aren't always bad.
Right.
The mobilized state actually keeps us protected. It protects
survival.
our children, right? And we are in a mobilized state when we're saving them essentially from running out in front of a car or something. Right. So as you look at the ladder, the bottom, right, I talked about that. It's a grounded, kind of comfortable, connected place, ventral vagal. And then as we move up that, we're into the sympathetic state, right, the mobilization. And then all the way up the ladder is this dorsal vagal, this numb, this slow, this shut down state, which we can get into very easily because we're consistently running so fast as mamas.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
And knowing that is extremely important because then we can attune to ourselves and come on back down into more of a connected state.
Do you think that we have control over
That's a great
the initial
question.
state that we are in?
Oh my gosh. So I had this in my notes to talk about because people think that you can think your way out of something.
Yeah.
Well, and that creates so much shame.
Right.
Again, I am admittedly a yeller. And I would shame myself, Stefanie, why? Why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep yelling at them for whatever, toilets, whatever? And once I started to learn about this system inside of me that I actually had no thought control over, then I started to be able to regulate myself much better because I wasn't in a state of shame.
Without the shame, yeah.
And we, I think, can walk around so ashamed for how we react. And when we know we can't think our way out of it, we have to feel our way out of it. Then there's some freedom in that. And then you're like, wow, that actually worked. Wait a minute.
Well, and it brings it back to, I just think of I'm a human, right? I'm not a robot. And so I have this system, this biological system that gets activated. And the other thing that I always like to mention is our nervous system doesn't understand the difference between a toddler tantruming and a tiger chasing you in the wild, right? It's perceiving threat or danger, and it isn't calibrating, is this real? Is this illogical? It's just danger.
Yes. Exactly. And the nervous system can't decipher whether this current situation is different than maybe the last situation that was dangerous.
Yes.
It's just noticing sensations on the inside and reacting to that.
Yes. And this really is where the magic happens, when we can learn to recognize these states or even just the sensations in our body. I think that a lot of the moms that I work with, and I know even for myself, I wasn't trained or taught growing up, I guess, how to listen to my body. And it's so funny because I use that language all the time with my littles. They're 3 and 6. And even with potty training them, I taught them listen to your body. Does your body have to pee? And my teen nieces, we spent the holidays with them. And one of them was non-judgmentally, she's why do you always say check in with your body? And I'm oh, well, I'm teaching her because she never wants to stop to go pee. She's doing something fun or we're going somewhere fun. And I want her. And so I'm teaching her, right? Let's pause, take a second, do a quick body scan. And my niece was oh, cool. But I'm yeah, we aren't taught to listen to our body or our system.
I think we were taught to think our way out of it.
Yeah.
Why are you acting this way? Well, that's how I was taught. And when we can really educate our children in that, what does hunger feel like?
Yes.
Right? What does having to go potty feel like? What does it feel like in the store when you have all of this incoming stimulation?
Yes.
Because that's really when our kiddos get overwhelmed.
Yes.
I actually walked into a Walmart once on purpose to look around. What is this like from a kiddo's point of view?
Right.
It is crazy
Right.
how much stimulation that is. And that activates our nervous system because neuroception, safety or danger. And we get overwhelmed, and then your kiddo's having a complete meltdown.
Right.
And then so are you.
Right.
And that's our autonomic nervous system at work doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the more that we as parents can check in with our bodies and learn, and even processing that out loud, like your kid's having a meltdown and I'm getting upset and overwhelmed too. It's like, okay, mom right now is getting some activation in my body. I'm feeling a little stressed. I'm going to take some deep breaths. If you want to take some deep breaths with me, you can. But the more that I practice that, I think out loud, I'm modeling to them and they're learning to do it too. And I have kind of a cool example with my oldest. She's 6, and one day we were all in the living room, kind of all doing different things. The TV was on, music was on, a kid was playing with a toy, and her little sis was bugging her. And I heard her tell her a couple of times, like, please stop, or, leave me alone. And then she like screamed at her and pushed her. And I was like, what is going on? And she's like, well, that TV's too loud. The music is on in the kitchen. She has that busy toy. She touched me and I couldn't take it.
Overwhelm.
And I'm like, oh, like that, you literally described what I'm feeling also, and on most days of just overstimulated. But I'm like, as a therapist mom, I'm like, what a beautiful moment. Like you were able to process that out loud of like all of the things that were like, of course you were. So then we were able to do some teaching on when we notice those things happening, like what can we do?
And Jessie, that's actually a testament to this idea of modeling and this idea of saying there's so much going on. And she was able to describe all of those things, knowing that was affecting her body,
right? And
then her response. And kids don't have that cause and effect thinking online as much as we would like.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But that's really neat that she was able to do that, because that's teaching her mind to understand the cause and effect, like that actually affected this and affected this.
Exactly.
There's a book called The Little Bug That Went Cuckoo.
Okay, tell me more. No.
It is the best little book, but it's this bug that sneezes, and then all of these things happen after the bug sneezes. And the whole book is about like the domino effect. And that's really what can happen with our autonomic nervous system, is these vulnerability factors pile up on us.
Yes.
And when we can be aware of our vulnerability factors, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I haven't had my water or my coffee or whatever, that can affect then our mobilized state and create this more activation,
right?
Because we haven't done those things that
those needs
take care of us.
Yes. Okay. So now that we have like a little understanding, right, of our nervous system and those states, I know like as a mom, theory is great and all these terms are great, but like we need tools. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't know. I like to chat with moms about like proactive tools that we can implement daily, right? And then those reactive tools that we use, like in the moment, I'm dysregulated, my lid is about to pop. Yes. So let's chat through some of the strategies that you like for nervous system regulation.
Well, the first strategy that I talk about is educating yourself. So what we're doing today, and all of your listeners, they've done step one, essentially, because when we don't understand what's happening inside of our bodies, then we are going to react in ways that we then shame ourselves for. Okay. Yeah. And so that is step one. We talked a little bit about neuroception, but there's also introception, where we can look inside of our bodies and notice what's that sensation?
Yes.
What's happening? I do want to say though that sometimes that can be scary for people, like getting inside of our bodies.
And it's new for a lot of us, right?
So new.
Especially like us, analytical thinkers. We want to stay here.
Yeah,
we don't want to go here
for so long. Yeah.
Down into the body.
And I will say to some of my clients, just notice that in your body, and they'll look at me like, what are you talking about, lady?
Yes.
And the truth is that is also then number number 1 or number 2. I don't know what number I'm on.
Yeah.
But really allowing yourself to just notice what's going on inside.
Yes.
In a gentle way. And you don't have to be perfect at it. When you notice hunger, gosh, look, I'm feeling a little hungry. Like, I know this sounds really simple.
It sounds so simple, but like it's hard for people.
Yes.
Hard. Like, because when I talk with people about this, I'm like, just for the next week, I want you to be like a little body detective, and you're just checking in with your body. You're doing a body scan from head to toe, noticing, and they think it's like silly or like, okay, how's that going to, and then they're like, oh my God, that was so hard, or I didn't like it, or, but it's hard. And then the beautiful part is when I, months later or whatever it is, when they're like processing, like, and then all of a sudden my face got hot and my tightness in my chest. And I'm like, look at you, little body detective.
No.
Like, you were doing the work. You're noticing your body cues.
And I get a little emotional when I hear that, because we can teach one another, and we can teach ourselves to be really in tune with this beautiful creation, right, that we have inside of us. And what I like to say, too, about understanding the autonomic nervous system is it's a quiet process. It's not like this, okay, now step 1, now step 2, and do this. What you just described, Jessie, was this beautiful process where they got to feel more at home inside of their bodies. And when we can, like, my ears get red. I know, I can feel the fire in my ears.
How funny.
And in my chest. And when we can do that, that's a step. The second thing, or maybe we're on 3.
So we talked about education.
Education.
Learning about checking in with your body. And then 3, tell us.
And then 3. So when we are feeling overwhelmed, one of the best things to do is to oscillate out. So looking outside of ourselves and noticing what's going on the outside. Okay. And that we use our 5 senses, right? So we use our eyes to really look around the room and notice what's going on around the room. Because when we get stuck inside of ourselves, inside of our heads, because you mentioned that a little bit, the nervous system likes to tell a story.
Yes.
And the story is almost never good. Right? The ending is usually very bad. But when we can oscillate out using our senses, then we're more able to get out of our head. So, you kind of look around the room, you notice something.
What do I see?
Yes.
What can I physically touch?
Yes.
Are there any smells? Like all of those senses.
All of those senses.
Puts us back into the environment, out of our heads and out of our bodies. And really that neuroception kicks in of like, okay, there is no immediate danger.
There is no immediate danger, right. And I like to use taste.
Okay.
Because right now, I'm not eating anything, but taste, when you can start to notice the taste in your mouth, it kind of like, oh gosh, I need to go get a drink. Because cold water is another piece. So maybe now we're on 4.
Yep, I'm with you.
Anything cold can regulate our system. So I notice you have your Stanley with your straw. Yep. And cold water with a straw and having that around can really stimulate that vagus nerve and help us get more regulated.
Calm, yes.
Cold water on our hands.
Yep, putting our hands under the faucet.
Kiddos love that too.
Yes, so these strategies are good for kids too. Yes. I'll always be like, do you need a drink of water? And the kids are like, no. I'm like, have a drink of water.
I'll take my drink of water. Let's all drink together. Yes. Because it really does help us.
Yes, so cold exposure, a drink, maybe putting your hands, some sort of cold exposure is going to help our nervous system kind of reset. Yes, and that's so easy.
It's so easy. And I think the other piece that's real important for us to focus on is that we're not going to be perfect right away. And you might try some of these strategies and it may not work. But one of the reasons they don't work right away is because our autonomic nervous system is kind of stuck in this state, maybe, right, of activation. But the more we practice, the better our nervous system is like, hey, it's okay. I can regulate. There is no danger. I'm okay.
Right.
So staying patient with yourself is so important. So important.
Yes, and giving yourself that self-compassion. I talk a lot with folks about rupture and repair.
Mm-hmm.
So the rupture is when my lid pops off. Maybe I yelled or snapped at my kids or my husband. And then the repair, right? So being able to acknowledge what I did. Once I'm regulated,
Yes.
being able to acknowledge, like, I'm sorry I yelled. I used a voice tone I
Harsh
shouldn't have
tone,
used.
yes.
That probably was scary for you. And making sure that I'm acknowledging that. And that's where that connection with your kid or your partner or whoever comes, because they're learning to trust you through that. And if I stay in a state of shame, then I continue to feel crappy.
Yes.
I am less likely to repair as easily or as quickly. So trying to give myself that self-compassion and then repair.
And that repair actually puts us more in a state of ventral vagal, right? That connection.
Social connection.
And knowing that that is possible. We always tell parents when I work with moms and dads and, parents, is that when you connect like that helps your nervous system be in a state of connection.
Yes.
And it's teaching it, hey, it is okay to make this mistake and come back down and connect with my child.
Yes.
So it's so much teaching. The other thing I like to talk about, and it's an app called Voxer. I don't know if anyone has heard of it, but it's this little walkie-talkie app. And one of the other ways to regulate our nervous system is with co-regulation.
Yes.
Right? And also, because right now you and I are co-regulating one another. And when we are in a state of mobilization and we need to get it out, one of the best ways is to vent. Voxer is like this walkie-talkie app.
Okay.
You can have your best friend on it.
Okay.
You push the button and you can vent for 7 minutes if you want.
How
And then your bestie or whoever, maybe your partner, can listen to that later, but you've gotten it all out. And then that gives your partner or your best friend or whoever some time to come back and regulate with you later. And so it's really important to understand that venting is part of autonomic nervous system regulation.
Yes.
It's not complaining, and it can get into that. But allowing yourself to vent some.
I do think that, at least in my experience, maybe this is a biased opinion, but a lot of women are verbal processors. And that's a lot of reasons why they're coming to see me, right? They want to process the thing.
Yes.
And yeah, you're right. It can look like complaining or rehashing, but that is helping their body regulate. When you talked about co-regulation, I want to add, because I never pretend to be a parenting expert, because I'm not, but I work with moms all the time.
Neither am I.
I read a lot and I try a lot of things with my own kids, but I'm a work in progress.
At failing and then repairing.
Yes,
that's what I'm an expert at.
We talk a lot about co-regulation, and I often tell them a dysregulated adult cannot help regulate a dysregulated child. And I think this is so important too when I think of like teachers, right? If a kid is having a meltdown or a behavioral issue and they're dysregulated and the teacher is getting activated and dysregulated and maybe raising their voice or standing over them, there's no way that anyone's coming down here.
That's absolutely right. Yes. And that speaks to mirroring neurons as well, is that we all have this shared system.
Right now, my nervous system is chatting with your nervous system, and that's that mirror neuroning. I think that we hear it a lot with like babies and newborns and postpartum, but it's still happening, people.
It's happening. And when we can bring ourselves down some, it's so interesting because we will over time notice that our kiddos will be less reactive because we are less reactive. And, as a teacher, I do remember there was a teacher across the way that was a total yeller. And I remember as a brand new teacher, I'm like, I am not going to yell at this kid.
I don't want to be like that.
And I didn't. And it was amazing the way these kids responded to that.
Yeah.
So, yes, this co-regulation is vital.
Right.
When it comes to autonomic nervous system regulation. activation for sure.
So the more work that I do as a mom to learn how to regulate my nervous system, that's trickling down and offering benefits to my kids and my little family too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
With, okay, when you were talking about venting, I just saw this like funny thing on TikTok, and it's a first grade teacher, and she created it's called a tattletale phone. And it's essentially whenever
it's
kids
like
want to
Voxer.
vent. Yes, it's like Voxer. And it goes to like a voicemail, and they can complain and they can let out all of their grievances from the day of, this person did that. It's exactly what you're saying. And I'm like, for first grade, that is such a good idea.
Love that.
Yeah, and she listens to them like the next day. And I just think it's like, because no teacher wants 25 first graders coming to them all day complaining and tattling. So she created the tattle phone, and I thought that was the cutest thing.
And so they feel heard.
Yes.
And that's another really important piece of this is when we can feel heard and held, we're much more likely to be able to regulate our nervous system and bring it down from that mobilized state. Because those little kids, they know she's probably going to listen to this and I'm going to feel heard. And then the next day they've probably let go.
They're over it.
They're over it. That is so great. I'm going to create one of those at my house.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd want to listen to it at my house. So we talked about educating yourself about the nervous system. We talked about learning how to be a body detective, learning how to stay kind of in your body, listening to those signals of activation, listening to them. We talked about the cold water exposure. Are there any other tips that you give moms, whether they're in a state of dysregulation or even just those proactive kind of daily habits that we can create to, I always say when we're doing the daily habits, we are increasing our capacity to handle and manage stress.
Is what it's called. Yes.
Love that.
Building our vagal
also
muscle.
Use that term. No.
Yes.
So while I think a lot of people want to know, like, what I need to know what to do in the moment. And yes, I'm going to give you a few of those ideas, and we talked about them. But what are some additional kind of daily proactive habits that are going to increase our capacity to manage stress over time?
So one of the major ones is giving yourself time in the morning before everything gets crazy. Okay. And it doesn't have to be 20 minutes.
Okay.
It can be 5.
Okay.
And I have a bathroom. We all typically have a bathroom, right? But I remember when I was little, when my kids were little, they were like banging on the door and all the things. Yeah. But one of the major things is to find a space in your home where you cannot be bothered, even if it's for 5 minutes. And there is a beautiful app called Insight Timer. Mm-hmm. I love it. Tons of free meditations,
stuff,
very short ones.
Has lots of guided meditations and short ones, like you said, like 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a 20-minute.
That's right.
Guided meditation.
But when we can learn to have some solitude, then we can learn to listen to our bodies. Because learning to listen to our bodies when it's quiet and when we have solitude, we're then much more able to learn to listen to our body. Something is happening with our spouse or with our partner or with our children. So one of the things I say to mamas is try your best to get that, even if it's 5 minutes of giving that time back to you.
Yes.
And noticing your breath. One of my favorite teachers on Insight Timer talks about your last breath was in the past. Your next breath is in the future. The only breath you have is the breath you have now. And when we can breathe that breath in and notice that, we become more connected to ourselves. So practicing that during your little 5-minute time in the morning and having a ritual. I talk with parents all the time is, what's your little ritual that you have for yourself that only belongs to you? Enjoy that little ritual.
Yes.
If that's washing your face before bed or
skincare,
whatever,
yes.
Enjoy the hell out of that ritual because that is attuning to you. And when you can attune to you, oh my goodness, we're much more able to attune to others.
Yes. Absolutely. It's not selfish.
It is not. I wish I would have learned that early on. Because there were times as a mom, I would do all the things and there was nothing left for me.
For you. Yeah.
So that is not selfish.
It's a quick recipe for burnout and
oh
resentment.
gosh. Yes.
For sure. Yeah. How old do you think your kids were when you learned the importance of taking care of, self-care and your needs?
Jesse, I would have to say they were probably in their teens.
Okay.
They were probably in their teens. When my third boy was born is when I started to really, I had been a therapist for a long time and had been immersed in all of this. When I started to realize, but even as a therapist, I was not good at the whole regulation thing.
Yeah.
So I would probably say my older ones were they were in their teens when I started to figure it out.
Well, and I think that's important for moms that are listening to know that, like, even as therapists, we are still human, right? And we are oftentimes providing education and skills, and we are still learning.
Oh, gosh.
And we're not perfect, right? My kids will tell you.
Yeah, and my kids will definitely tell you, Mom, you're a therapist. Why are you talking like that? And I'm like, well, because I'm also a human being.
Yes, I am a nervous system. With some of those tips on daily and like self-care, I just also think I love the idea of taking like 5 minutes in the morning or however minutes you can get to yourself. I do think just that the power of micro breaks throughout the day are an important practice. In fact, I remember once I was venting to you about like a holiday thing that was coming. We were hosting like back-to-back things and I was excited, but like I had that activation in my body. And you were like, before you go from one thing to the next, I just want you to pause, take a few deep breaths and pause and be present before you go to the next thing. And I've really incorporated that in a lot of different areas of my life, just because it's always go, go, go as a mom, right? The to-do list never ends. There's always more that I could be doing, but I've really had to learn this practice of slowing down, being present. I mean, I noticed like I was guilty of, I'd be cuddling on the couch with my kids, watching a movie, but I'd also have my phone out and I'd be ordering the grocery pickup.
Yes.
And I'm distracted. And they're like, Mom, why aren't you watching the movie? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I can order the groceries after they go to bed or whenever, but like, I can just be present and do one thing. And I think that is important for our nervous system.
It's so important. I'm so glad you brought that up because transitions, every time the nervous system has to transition to something new, it has to detect safety or danger. Yeah. And when we can take these micro breaks, I love that. We then can recalibrate our autonomic nervous system to go into this new little place, right?
Yes.
And those micro breaks can be, I'm going into a new setting.
Yeah, environment.
I'm going to be gentle and kind with myself. Here I go, right? They can be noticing the breath. And I know I've said this before, but when you can hide out for a minute and run to the bathroom without your phone.
Yes.
Without your phone.
So hard for us.
So hard because I need to hide in the bathroom
to scroll,
to answer an email. Or well, you had this beautiful reel the other day where you were like, a mama is, scrolling on her phone and then no, she's not. And you listed all of the things that mamas are doing. And I was like, whoa, reality right there.
Yeah.
And thinking about all of those things, that's all those things that get our bodies activated. And setting the phone down for a minute, allowing yourself to just be with yourself.
Yes.
And then transitioning to that new, whatever that is going to give you that vagal tone in order to be more regulated in the next place or the next situation or the next scream or whatever, right?
Yeah.
The next meltdown. Yes.
Yeah, I think that as women, we like to say we're good at multitasking, and maybe we are to some extent.
I like to say I am.
But we really are, as humans, we are able to be more productive when we are focusing on one thing at a time and giving that our full attention.
Yes.
And I notice that all the time at home, and my husband will laugh because I'll be like cooking dinner, but then I'm like, oh, well, I already have this out. I can prep taco meat for tomorrow night and I can do this. And I'm running around. And he's like, what are you doing?
I know.
And I'm like, I don't know. What's that timer for? And what's that timer for? Because my brain is like, I want to maximize my time. I want to get everything done. And sometimes I can do that and it works out okay. And sometimes I'm a frazzled mess.
That's right.
And those are those moments where I am laughing at myself because I'm just like, yeah, what am I doing? Why can't I just focus on making tonight's meal?
And what a great co-regulator your husband in that moment was. What are you doing? Oh, wait a minute. I don't know.
It really does take me out of my head. And I'm like, oh, you are right.
You are right.
Yeah.
I am frazzled.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things, and one of the last things I wanted to share, was the autonomic nervous system, and us as mamas, we do need space to be held. But sometimes it's, and holding doesn't always mean the physical holding. But like right now, you and I are holding space for one another. And one thing that Deb Dana talks about is taking your hand and putting it on your cheek and just leaning into it and just holding up your head. And maybe with your hand on your heart or your other hand on your tummy. And just allowing your face to be held just even for a minute can bring your body into an autonomic nervous system state of connection.
Isn't it funny how that's so hard to do?
It's so hard to do.
Yeah. Well, Stefanie, this has been incredible chatting with you. I really want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Omaha
for having
Mom
me.
Talks. Yes.
So fun.
I know that so many women are going to walk away listening to this, feeling empowered to check in with their nervous system, hopefully use some of the strategies that we've shared today and pay attention, right, to themselves and what their needs are and what their body is telling them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if folks want to learn more about you or follow the work that you're doing, where can they find you?
So, our website, so I have The Cord, where science meets connection. And so our website is thecordco.com.
Okay.
And then we are on Instagram. It is _connection.
Okay.
So cord_connection. And we are on Instagram.
And I will tag that in the show notes.
Okay,
as well.
perfect. And then I am also on Instagram, and I just share, funny things about, mom stuff and exercise and nervous system things. And I'm at Steffi Jo Wholeness.
Yes, because what you didn't share is that you are like a fitness guru.
Love to
You're very
lift
active.
weights.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very.
I did
very
not
strong.
share that.
Yes, perfect. All right. So thank you again for joining us. We will tag your kind of ways to connect with you in the notes. And then thank you to all of our listeners. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to Omaha Mom Talks so you never miss an episode, and leave a review. If you have any questions, or if you have any topics or things that you would like for us to chat about in future episodes, please send me a message. You can also find me on Instagram at @JessieGutierrez _ or at Omaha Mom Talks on Instagram. Remember that taking care of yourself is one of the best gifts that you can give to yourself and to your family. So give yourself permission to pause and take care of you. You got this. Thanks, mamas. Omaha Mom Talks. Real moms, authentic conversations, no filter needed.